Nākamā prezentācija mums būs no Baltijas biržā lielākā uzņēmuma pēc tirgus kapitalizācijas, un tas ir Ignitis Group. Par uzņēmumu stratēģiju un ko tā dod investoriem pastāstīs Ignitis Group CFO, ja finanšu direktors un valdes loceklis Jonas Rimavičius un investoru attiecību vadītāja Ainė Riffel-Grinkevičienė. I'm sorry, Ainė. Please welcome, and the floor is yours.
So, good afternoon, everyone. So, it's really nice to join, and thank you for the introduction. So, today, in relation to just recently announced Ignitis Group Strategy update, as well as the strategic plan for the next 4 years, so we would like to introduce you with, so what's in it for investors? What are the key highlights, and what should you expect from the company? So this part will be covered by Jonas, Ignitis Group CFO is introduced, and I will just shortly before that will introduce you about Ignitis Group from the issuer perspective. So Ignitis Group became a publicly listed company in September 2020 when we IPO'd our shares, and during the IPO we raised 450 million euros by issuing primary share capital just to ensure the implementation of midterm renewables targets. So that in turn translated into 1.7 billion euros of market capitalization and 2.2 billion euros of enterprise value. And shareholder base-wise, so we managed to ensure the balanced allocation of the shares, so which was in line with capital market practices for such IPOs size-wise. So 74% were dedicated to long-only investors, less than 1/5 to hedge funds, and the remaining part, around 9%, were bought by retail investors. And the majority of investors came from United Kingdom, Baltics, Nordics, and United States. So our IPO was the largest so far in the Baltic states, and the size was the matter of 2 reasons. So the first one is that our equity raise was 2 times larger than all combined IPOs in Vilnius Nasdaq, and it comprised of the largest retail share offer, so basically contributing substantially to capital market development, which was one of our targets. Another target was to accelerate renewables expansion. So with 450 million euros of equity capital raised, so it basically translates into the investments of the size of 2 billion euros if applying a leverage of around 70 to 80%. And it actually is enough to double the renewables capacity in the Baltics. And on our shareholder base and its development. So our majority shareholder is Government of Lithuania, Ministry of Finance. So it holds 75% of our stock, and the rest remains with institutional and retail investors. And actually, I would like to stop here and make your attention to the right side of the slides, as our retail number of shareholders increased more than 3 times. So the growth was captured across all Baltic states investors. Of course, the largest part by Estonian ones, which number increased more than 5 times and now contributes the largest part of our shareholder base in terms of retail investors. And regarding Latvian ones, so there also was a growing trend. So the number of Latvian investors increased from 300 to 1.1 thousand. So there's still potential to capture. And moving on to the last slide, so on shareholder return and actually our share price potential. So Ignitis Group stock generated twice the size, the return, over the 12-month period since the large March, compared to Euro Stoxx Utilities, which is our benchmark index. So our stock generated 13.5% of total return, which comprises of 2 elements, so price appreciation and the dividends paid. And during the same time, Euro Stoxx Utilities generated 7.7% of total return. So that is about current and historical situation, but what about the prospects? And for that, we might look to our analyst coverage overview. And currently our stock is covered by 7 analysts, out of which 4 provides price targets higher than the last hour stock price. So this shows the potential of our stock upward trend in the future. And just before that, I would also like to highlight that all these reports of analysts are solely just for institutional clients of the institutional banks, but we provide support for our retail shareholders. So basically, you can look to get an independent point of view about our company's development from Enlight Research provided. So with that, Jonas, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Ainė. So indeed, we last week we published our updated strategic plan 2023-2026. So it's very fresh. And one of the main goals of our strategic plan is to actually communicate to the investors what are we going to do over the next 4 years, how we will do it, and why we will be successful in doing that. So let me try to answer these questions to you today, and starting with our business model, right? So who we are as Ignitis Group. So we are a renewables-focused integrated utility, which means that renewables are at the core of our operations, but we look at it from the integrated approach. So meaning that we not only do renewables generation, we also make sure that the system has enough flexibility capacity to accommodate large renewables growth, that the networks are capable to deliver those renewable capacities, and that our customers are happy once they get it. So, and this is very much in line with our purpose of creating a 100% green and secure energy ecosystem. And in order to do that, we have set 2 main targets. So one is to increase our green generation installed capacity to between 4 and 5 gigawatts by 2030. And the second one is to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2040 to 2050. When working towards our targets, we aim to utilize our integrated business model approach, which benefits from the largest customer portfolio in the Baltics, the largest energy storage facility, the largest network, and the largest energy hub in the Baltics. In terms of technologies, so we will focus on green and flexible technologies such as offshore wind, onshore hybrid, and P2X and storage. Geography-wise, we are present in the Baltic states, Poland, and Finland. So how does this business model actually work? So we are structured in 4 business segments: green generation, networks, customers and solutions, and reserve capacities. The largest one by far is green generation, which accounted for more than 50% of our 469 million EBITDA last year. So effectively, we have already installed capacity of 1.2 gigawatts, and on top of that, we already have secured the pipeline of 4 gigawatts, meaning that our total portfolio reaches around 5.3 gigawatts, which is actually quite positions us very well towards our 2030 target of 4 to 5 gigawatts of green generation capacity. The second largest segment is networks, which accounts for 1/3 of our business, and this is a fully regulated natural monopoly, so the stable part of our business model. And effectively, if you combine green generation and networks, this already combined accounts for 90% of our EBITDA. So from financial perspective, those 2 are the key drivers of the business. The third segment is customers and solutions. And even though from EBITDA perspective, it accounts only for 3% of EBITDA, it is very important strategically. Why? Because there we have a large customer base of 1.4 million customers, which will be crucial once we build the green generation to match the supply part of the business with the generation part. And last but not least, reserve capacity is also not a very big segment, 7% of EBITDA, but important strategically as it ensures the stability of the system. Now let me dig a bit deeper into two of the segments. So one, green generation, and the second one, customers and solutions. On the green generation side, one thing which I would like to flag is that there are plenty of growth opportunities in our target markets. So if you take Baltics and Poland, we expect to see around 41 gigawatts of new green generation capacities by 2030. And there are multiple reasons why this growth will come. So firstly, Lithuania is in structural electricity deficit. So we generate only 1/3 of our electricity needs. And the country has a clear target to reach 100% over the coming years. Secondly, in Poland, the system is very much dependent on coal. Currently, 70% of Polish generation mix is coal-based, and this has to be phased out. In Estonia, they have similar situation with shale oil, meaning that they will have to phase out it as well. Then, for the whole Baltic region, there is an overarching effect of terminated electricity imports from Russia and Belarus, which will also need to be replaced by something. And last but not least, EU policies, including Repower EU, amplify all of these effects. So what it means for our own targets. So we have set a midterm target to reach between 2.2 and 2.4 gigawatts by 2026 of installed green generation capacity, and a long-term target to reach 4 to 5 gigawatts by 2030. So effectively, we'll double our capacities by 2026 and double it again by 2030. In terms of our current green generation portfolio, so it now reached 5.3 gigawatts, 1.7 gigawatt of which is secured, right? So around 1/3. In terms of technology, 40%, the largest bit, is onshore wind, followed by offshore wind, solar, and hydro. By geography, and this is my favorite point, so Lithuania is obviously the largest bit, but Latvia now is the second largest market for us in green generation. And last year it was still Poland, but we made quite some good progress, and Latvia is now our second largest bit in the portfolio. And we think we are quite excited about it, and we think we'll build some very nice assets here quite soon. Okay, so when we work towards our capacity targets, we focus on technologies that can deliver 100% green and secure energy ecosystem. And in order to achieve that, you need both green generation and green flexibility solutions. So on green generation part, we will focus on offshore wind and hybrid onshore. Why? Simply because offshore wind is the most efficient renewable technology, and onshore hybrid, meaning combining wind and solar into a single connection point, makes a lot of sense because it utilizes the capacity of the network in the most efficient manner and provides a more stable generation profile. And especially in our region, it makes a lot of sense because overlap between wind and solar generation profiles is very minimal. On the flexibility side, we will focus on batteries for the short-term flexibility solutions, on pump storage hydro for the medium-term storage solutions, and on P2X for long-term storage solutions. And let me flag two of these technologies just for you to get a better feeling how we approach it. So for the offshore wind, we aim to secure 2 offshore wind projects in the Baltics. One in Lithuania with COD date of around 2030, and another one in any of our home markets with COD date post-2030. In terms of auction pipeline, so we are going to have 2 offshore wind auctions in Lithuania still this year, each 700 megawatts. Then we are likely to see 7 gigawatts of seabed lease capacities being auctioned in Estonia also this year. And in 2026, we also expect to see 1 gigawatt auctioned in a joint tender between Latvia and Estonia. So this is a bit of a short-term perspective. In the longer term, the Baltic Sea capacity of offshore wind could exceed 60 gigawatts of offshore wind capacity, meaning that there's a huge potential, which makes the Baltics one of the most attractive regions for offshore wind development. Another technology which I would like to flag to you is pump storage hydro. So our existing Kruonis pump storage facility is currently 900 megawatts, and it is one of the largest energy storage facilities in Europe. And on top of it, just last month, we made a final investment decision to increase that capacity to 1 gigawatt. And after the increase, this facility will be able to generate at full capacity, so 1 gigawatt, for full 10 hours, meaning that it's a massive storage of 10 gigawatt hours, which will be crucial in the system which has a lot of renewable energy generation. Okay, and the last thing to flag in the green generation segment is our partnership approach. So strategic partnerships are an important part of our strategy. So once we enter new markets or enter new technologies, we aim to partner with someone who's done it before. So, and as an illustration, we've done that already with Fortum for waste-to-energy technology. So when we built Kaunas waste-to-energy CHP, we partnered with Fortum. And we are now doing the same for offshore wind when we partnered with Ocean Winds, a leading global offshore wind player, in order to deliver these offshore wind projects in the Baltics. Okay, so now let's move on to customers and solutions segment, and just a few points to note here. So that, as I mentioned before, the strategic rationale of this segment is to utilize the existing large customer base in order to enable green generation build-out. So currently, we supply electricity. Our amount of supplied electricity is 7 times larger than the electricity that we generate, which means that we can build additional 3 gigawatts of capacities and simply match it internally within our group to offload that power. And this is quite a unique position to be in. Very few utilities across Europe has this advantage. And one more point on the EV network, we have also put a strategic focus on this part, and we aim to build a leading EV charging network across the Baltic countries with 3,000 charging points by 2026 across the 3 Baltic countries, which should roughly allow us to take 50% market share. So what do all those plans mean in terms of financials? So we will invest between 2.2 and 2.8 billion over the next 4 years, majority of which, or 55%, will go into green generation build-out, and another sizable chunk of it will go into networks, around 40%. And naturally, our adjusted EBITDA will grow accordingly by 7 to 11% each year until 2026, and will reach between 470 to 550 million of EBITDA. The growth will be driven by the segments where we invest the most, so green generation mainly, followed by the networks, and then on customers and solutions and reserve capacities, the movements will be lower. In terms of target returns, so we target to earn between 6.5 and 7.5 of return on capital employed. And in green generation specifically, we aim to earn at least 100 to 350 basis points above our WACC on the unlevered basis. And if we look at levered target returns, it's high single digit to low double digit equity returns. When doing that, despite the heavy investment plan, we remain committed to our strong investment grade credit rating of BBB and above. And we also aim to stay below 5 times net debt to EBITDA. And lastly, on shareholder returns, so we aim to continue growing our dividends by at least 3% every single year, which represents a dividend yield of around 6 to 7%. Okay, so that's about it on financials. And then probably the most important slide in the presentation, what's in it for investors, right? So there are quite a few reasons why you should consider investing in Ignitis. And those are as follows. So firstly, we are renewables focused, right? Meaning that we will quadruple our installed capacity by 2030 to between 4 and 5 gigawatts. And this is very well supported by the pipeline, which is already secured. Secondly, our integrated business model positions us very well to succeed in the energy transition, where we will benefit from our largest customer base in the Baltics, largest storage facility, largest network, and largest energy hub in the Baltics. Thirdly, we operate in a very attractive market. So as you are well aware, but Baltics are not only leading in terms of GDP growth in EU, but they are also expected to grow their renewable energy installed capacity the fastest as well. Fourth, we have a financial capacity to deliver on that growth, so which is supported by the large balance sheet and strong BBB plus credit rating. Fifth, we are committed to net zero emissions, so by 2040 to 2050. And this is not only words, it actually, we have already been recognized by multiple ESG rating providers as a leading utility in Europe in that respect. And finally, Ignitis shares offers attractive blend of yield and growth, with a dividend yield of between 6 and 7% and EBITDA growth between 7 and 11%. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonas, and thank you, Ainė. I think we're running out of time, short of time, and I really thank you for your presentation, and I invite everyone to meet them at the break if you have any additional questions, and otherwise, if you have some more questions, please write to Ainė. You will find her contacts in investor relations section on their website, right? Thank you, guys.